Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Happy Meadow Tales. I'm your host, Steve Kitts. The Meadow Mural. The sun was just peeking over the hills at Happy Meadow when Robbie the rabbit hopped out of his burrow, stretched his long ears towards the sky. It was a perfect morning, warm, bright, and full of possibilities. Not far away, Benny the squirrel scurried around Farmer Brown's barn, gathering twigs for a nest. That's when he noticed something rather dull. The old wooden fence beside the barn looked so plain. Just a long row of gray boards with no color at all. Benny tilted his head and thought, this fence could use a little life. When Robbie came hopping by, Benny called out, "Hey, Robbie! Don't you think this fence looks kind of boring?" Robbie twitched his nose and nodded. "You're right, Benny. It could use a splash of color." Then Benny's eyes lit up. "I've got it! Let's paint a mural. A big, beautiful picture of all of our friends here in the meadow." Robbie smiled. "A meadow mural? That sounds wonderful. Let's do it together." They gathered up some old brushes, bright pots of paint, and a bucket of water. Robbie began painting the sky, a wide stretch of soft, gentle blue. Benny added fluffy white clouds, though some of the paint ended up on his tail. Robbie laughed kindly. "Looks like your tail wants to be part of the art, Benny." Benny giggled. "Yeah, I guess it's just helping out the mural come to life." Now, before long, their friends began to arrive. There was Flora the fox and Blossom, who's Robbie's little sister, the rabbit, trotted up. They had baskets full of wildflowers. "Oh my," Blossom said. Eyes were sparkling. "That looks lovely. May we paint some flowers?" "Of course," Robbie said. "We could use your flower magic." Flora began to paint bright blossoms along the bottom of the fence. Pink daisies, yellow sunflowers, and Blossom added some tiny purple violets. And then a gentle jingling sound came. It was Gary the goat, his bells clinking as he trotted over. Mainly to warn you that Gary's coming to hide whatever he might eat. "What's all this, then?" he asked, sniffing in the air. "Smells like paint. Yum." "We're making a mural," said Benny proudly. "You want to help?" Gary's eyes twinkled. "Sure thing. I'll paint a barn. And promise not to nibble on the brushes this time." Everyone laughed, though they kept a close eye on Gary, just in case. All through the morning, the friends painted together. Flora and Blossom's flowers bloomed along the bottom. Gary's bright red barn stood tall in the middle. Robbie continued to paint the sky while Benny added meadow grass. Before long, it wasn't just a fence anymore. It was a picture of everything they loved. There were flowers and bees and trees and sunshine, Farmer Brown's barn, and even a little bakery in the corner for Sam the skunk. When the last brush stroke was done, Robbie and Benny stood side by side, admiring their work. The friends shone in the afternoon light, colorful, cheerful, and full of love. "It's like a story," Benny said softly. "Our story." Robbie nodded. "Yes, Benny, Every friend added their own little bit of color, and that's what makes it so special. They smiled, watching the paint glisten as the gentle breeze carried a scent of flowers throughout the meadow. That night, as the stars began to twinkle over Happy Meadow, Robbie and Benny sat back beneath the mural, feeling proud and peaceful. Robbie whispered, "We made something beautiful today." Benny let out a big yawn and nodded sleepily. "Yeah, and we did it together." The fireflies blinked around them like tiny lanterns, and soon both friends drifted off to sleep, dreaming of colors and kindness. Now, the moral of the story is that every friend has something bright to share, and when we work together, we make a world more beautiful. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Happy Meadow Tales Podcast. I've been your host, Steve Kitts. Stay tuned for even more adventures, and go back and find the beginning of these adventures and start over listening together. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless.